Howdy everyone, I'm Evolve Finch, and in today's tutorial you are going to be learning how to import your own base as a custom Corvette in No Man's Sky. Let's get started. I've gone ahead and split up this tutorial into chapters for ease of watch. So, in the first chapter here, we're going to go ahead and do installation. So for now, as we go through these, I simply want you to install, but do not extract any files. Just simply download them, okay? And if you're curious about where to get all these links, I have everything linked that you're going to need in the description down below. So with that being said, the first link that you're going to need to click on is Blender. And you're either going to need the current version of Blender, 5.4.3, or you're going to need what I use, which is the Blender 4.1. I personally use the 4.1 Windows 64 zip. And that gets me what I need for my computer. And the reason I use 4.1 in particular is just because I find it to be a bit more stable than version 4.5. Okay, but either will work. Next thing on the list that you're going to need is a save editor. So for this you have two options. You have Nom Nom and you have Goat Fungus. And this is what allows us to export the code from the game and then copy back over and re-import our code into the game. The third thing you're going to need is the BPY external add-on. Again, just installing these, or downloading, I'm sorry. Do not install, do not extract. You are just downloading for now. And if you're unsure about how to download on GitHub, you're going to click here on code and then download zip. Okay, you're going to do that for all of these thus far, including Blender. If you do want to go ahead and get Blender installed and set up, that's okay. That will not impact the process of this. So the next thing that you're going to need is the No Man's Sky Base Builder plugin. I would highly recommend getting the one from Nexus and not the one from GitHub, as I've linked below. I linked the one from Nexus, as you can see. And what I would recommend is getting this one is because I believe this one is up to date and the other one is not. So for this, you're going to go to Files here, next to description. You're going to click Manual Download. Okay. The next one up that you're going to need, if you plan on building in Blender, but if you do not plan on doing this, if you simply plan on importing and exporting bases as Corvettes, then you will not need this. But if you plan on building in Blender and making your own custom Corvettes, which we'll get to in a later tutorial, on how to actually specifically build in Blender, then you will need No Man's Sky util. Again, just clicking code and download zip. Do not extract yet. Okay, I'm going to walk you through which ones you need to extract and which ones you do not. So for Blender, if you have not already, you're going to come here and extract what you've installed. You're going to run the installation within the folder that you get, and you're going to go ahead and open that up, run it, and install it. And that's going to give you Blender right here. Okay. Blender, once you have it open, it might ask you for a few preference settings to be made. These are just look of Blender. Okay. You might also see when you open it a cube here, something akin to that. You are welcome to delete that by hitting delete on your keyboard. And you can also delete whatever camera might also be apparent, which will look something akin to, if I can find it here, camera, which will look something akin to that. You're welcome to delete that as well. You will not need either of those. Okay, so once you've got that all open, you're welcome to close out or keep it open Blender. Technically, you will need it open for this tutorial, but if you are someone who doesn't like a lot of clutter, for right now you won't need it. So the next thing up is the nom nom, or goat fungus. This one you do extract. Same as Blender, because it's a standalone program. You're going to extract it, run the exe, install the program. Okay. Same for goat fungus. For the BPY external add-on, for the No Man's Sky base builder plugin, and for the No Man's Sky util, you do not extract the files. If you extract these files, Blender will not know how to install them properly, and it will not be able to install them, and they will not work. They will not even work because they won't be there. So, for these ones in particular, you're going to take the zip file that it gave you from the download zip. You're going to open up Blender. You're going to hit edit up here at the top left. You're going to go down to preferences. It's going to open up this menu right here. It might have you open on interface. If it does, just scroll down here to add-ons. You're going to want to click install. And if you're like me, before you do that actually, you might want to go ahead and make sure that you have enabled add-ons only ticked off. So that way you can see what add-on you've just installed but not enabled yet once you've installed it. So you're going to click install. You're going to go to your downloads and wherever you've installed it, and you're going to click zip. Now it's going to look like this. No Man's Sky base builder app.zip, and that same thing goes for the BPY external plugin as well as the util, the No Man's Sky util. Okay, these steps are the same for all three. So you're going to install that zip file, again, not the extracted, just the full zip, and you're going to find that name by coming here and searching, and you're going to type in no, or just really just no for No Man's Sky, and you're going to see right there, Game Engine, No Man's Sky Base Builder. Do not worry about any of these other things that you see here. If you see anything else related to No Man's Sky that I do not mention, do not worry about it. Some of these things are things such as the importing and exporting of mesh files and such. You do not need to worry about that in this tutorial. So for this, we're just going to be worrying about the No Man's Sky Base Builder, the BPY external add-on, and the No Man's Sky util. So one at a time, you're going to install those, and then you're going to click enable right there. Once you've done that, exit out, and then if you'd like, go ahead and exit out of Blender and reopen. Give it a good refresh. Okay, that's going to go ahead and just make sure that all of them are installed. Now, at first you might not see anything. Your file is most likely going to look something like this if you've never installed Blender before or used it. What you want to do, if you want to clean this up a little bit, is you want to hit Control and space, and then you're going to come over here to this little tab right next to the little gimbal. You're going to pop that out, and you're going to scroll down until you see No Man's Sky Base Builder. And I want you to go ahead and just to test and make sure that it's working, launch your asset browser. This might take a moment. The first time it opens, it may take a minute, might take a couple minutes, depending on your computer and how fast it is. But once it loads the first time, it most likely will not need to load that much again. Okay, this is how we get all our parts into the game. So if you plan on building, this is important, but this is also important for the import and exportation of the files, because if you plan on importing over a particular Corvette, you'll see later on in the steps that we need to be able to see where the parts are and what those parts are, in fact. And we can't do that if the asset browser doesn't work. So even though everything else might work, they'll just import again as those little base cubes. It'll just look like that, but for a part. And we don't want that. Alrighty everyone, in this next step I'm going to have you go ahead and open up your game. Once you get into game, I want you to go to a space station and head to the Corvette station, Corvette workshop. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a very basic Corvette similar to the one that you see there. So, we're going to create a new Corvette, throw down a landing gear, throw down a hab, walkway, cockpit, reactor, thruster, and finally, weapon system. And that will get us everything we need, bare minimum. And the reason, that we're doing this is because when you go to import and export via save editor, we need something to import and export from and to. This is going to create that. So we're going to go ahead and finalize, add to collection. Alrighty, once you've made your Corvette, I want you to go ahead and do one last thing here. I want you to place a base part of some kind from your list here onto the Corvette. So it doesn't have to be the sign. It can be the habitation heater, for instance. Doesn't matter. I've used a few different items, but the habitation heater in particular I know can be noticeable in the game files because it's just called base lava. And I'll explain why we need that in a second. So after you're done there, go ahead and get in and out of your ship and make a save. Once you've done that, feel free to quit the desktop. So for this next step, once you have your game saved and your ship built, you can go ahead and open up Save Editor. And what I want you to do is go ahead and find the slot with your save file on it that contains your Corvette that you just made. Come up here to the top and hit Edit. Edit Raw JSON. Base context. Player state data. Scroll down until you see persistent player bases. And you want to find the base containing your base lava, otherwise known as the habitation heater in game. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna go up here to the top, select in the text file, hit Control A to select all, and then Control C to copy. Once you're done with that, go ahead and close. So now that you have copied the JSON code from Save Editor for your Corvette specifically, you want to come over here to import No Man's Sky right at the top of the base builder. You might need to give yours a moment to load in. And then you want to come up here to File and Save or Save As. Okay. And you want to save this as its own file. This is your Corvette file with all your Corvette info. So this has got your user data up here. This is where you pay attention to that user data for when you go to re-import and make sure that you're importing over the right one. So this is so we don't have to worry about reading the base lava again. That's just for exporting. And then the base name, if you have a base that you're going to be importing over, that is where you would see that. However, the Corvettes, even when you name them, do not have their names attached to the base file. Their names are attached to the ship file. Okay. So once you have that done, you've saved it. You're going to open up another Blender file, and you are going to, now here I already have one that already has my base, but if you do not, just open up a fresh Blender file again, import No Man's Sky, but you are going to be importing that time the JSON code from whatever base you had. So you again edit raw JSON, base context, player state data, scroll all the way down, persistent player bases, and it's going to be in that same list. So you want to find the base that you want to export that has the name that you want to export, and you want to go ahead and copy that over and import No Man's Sky. So assuming you're at that step, you're going to take all your objects here. Now, rather than having to drag and select all your objects, we're only going to select 2 objects, and it's the 2 objects that we actually, ironically, do not want to take with us. So, for me it's only going to be 1 because I don't have the other here, for instance. But for you it might be 2 if you're importing a base computer. Or an already built base, I should say. So you are going to want to click 2 things. The base computer itself, which should be right here at the center, or if you've moved it since you made the base, since you claimed the base I should say, it might be somewhere around. So just try and remember where you have your base computer, okay? And then the next thing you're going to want to click is the U paragon. So you want to shift click both of those to get them both selected. So shift and click, and then shift and click to select another object. Okay. And then once you have both of those, I want you to hit 2 buttons at the same time. Control, hold it, and then hit I. That's going to invert your selection and grab your entire base. Okay, because we want all the objects but those. Alright, so we're going to hit Control and C, and we're going to copy all those objects right there. We're then going to get File, Open, and we can save this one if we want. And we're going to come back over here to our Corvette. And before you paste that in, I want you to do one thing. And by the way, you can see the archaic habitation heater there, just so you know for a fact that you're working on the right Corvette. And we're going to go ahead and grab everything but the U paragon. That's our auto base power that needs to stay at the center point. And we're going to just drag this over approximately 40 or 50, depending on how meters, depending on how big your base is, okay? We just want this out of the way. Now, this tutorial, although I've already got it done, and again to paste, you're going to hit Control and V, but in this tutorial, I've already got this customized with all the parts simply for ease of explanation. Okay, so I'm not sitting here having to build this as I'm going and explaining. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want, at minimum, so you can actually use the ship, your cockpit. Now, technically speaking, this is the only thing that you need for your ship to function. However, it is not the only thing that you will need if you wish to get the textures, let's say, onto the Corvette parts. If you wish for them to be more of a centerpiece, like an engine, like I've got here, you will need to add in and hide one of each of these items that you've got here into your build somewhere. Okay? In order to be able to edit it after the fact and be able to either change out Corvette parts that you maybe just don't like, or color them so you can finalize the actual build. Alright, so once you have one of each of those hidden in there, again, they do not have to be connected. As you can see here, for example, I'll show you. I have my cockpit hidden in a chair. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean by that. Right here, if I hide that object, that is the Thunderbird cockpit right there. The reason that I have it hidden like that is because if you scale the cockpits down to 1/10 the size, so if you scale by hitting S, right here, I'll pull this to bounding box center. You scale by hitting S, and then you hit the division key, which is the, I believe it's the slash key on your numpad, and you're gonna hit 10. You're gonna type in 10. That's gonna divide it by and scale it down by 10. So you're gonna get 0.1 is gonna show up there. So I'll show you here. Scale, divide, 10. Then you're gonna see 0.1 show up like that. But I've already scaled it down here, so that would be itty bitty if I did it like that. So I'm not gonna do that. So that's just one example of how you can hide your cockpit. So for the engines, I've just got them right here on the side. For the teleportation and being able to get back onto my ship, you are going to need your landing bay. However, again, this does not need to be usable. It simply needs to be on the ship. So you can go and hide that, and it does not need to be connected. It is simply so you can teleport back up to your ship if you've fallen off of it, or teleport down, for instance, if you want a convenient way to hide that. The next thing, your guns. Pretty obvious, I think, but I do and have, in fact, let's see if I can get them highlighted here. Let's see if I can, hold on, just hide those. There we go. Let's see if I zoom in here. If I can get it shown. There we go. So here, in these cannons, I have hidden itty bitty, scaled down turrets. These do in fact fire out of the cannons. They do not fire at an angle. They just fire straight forward. However, it is very aesthetically pleasing to watch my cannons actually fire. So, next thing is landing gears. You do not need them unless, again, you want to be able to essentially edit the ship after the fact. But if you do not plan on doing that anymore, if you just plan on doing a one and done base, I would say all you need is that cockpit again. Okay. So now that you have all of those hidden in your base, you are good to delete any objects that are unwanted. At this step, you should have your U paragon as well as the rest of your base. Inside of your new file that contains all the data from your Corvette, you're going to save that file again, and you're going to come up here to hit export, and you're going to hit export No Man's Sky. Okay, so we've got user data 4. Keeping that in mind, what our numbered user data is, go ahead and exit out of Blender, open back up Save Editor, go here to Edit, Edit Raw JSON, Base Context, Player State Data, scroll all the way down, Persistent Player Bases, and we're going to find that same file that we exported over before. So user data 4 has the base lava, so we know that that's our file right there. So we're going to hit Control A to select all again, but rather than hit Control C to copy it, we want to paste over it with our new data. So we're going to hit Control V and paste. So you see, I now have lots of code here. And that is because my base has a lot of parts. Okay, so we can scroll up through here and see user data 4, player ship base. Now, this might appear to be out of order at first. Do not worry. If for whatever reason your player ship base is at the bottom or at the top or something akin to that, as long as the info is there, you are good. So, all that needs to be there are these lines in this order. Or I'm sorry, not necessarily in that order, but in order of segment, so that the JSON code can save. Okay? So, as long as you're not touching it, and you're just exporting directly from Blender, you're good to go. To just hit Control A, and then Control V to paste back over. Okay. So now we're going to hit Exit. It's going to ask us, do we wish to save the changes to the file? We're going to hit Yes. But we're not done yet. We still need to save changes. So that's writing the JSON code into the file, and then this is saving it to our actual save file. So once we've done that, we are good to go, and it should be in game. Now that we're back in game, let's check out our build. So assuming that we have followed the steps properly, and assuming that the ship has not disappeared because you imported over the wrong file, then your ship should now be in the game. So let's go see how everything works real quick. As you saw, I had scaled down my cockpit. And how this is gonna work is you're gonna, if we can, sorry, I have a new jetpack, so all of this is gonna be really slow to get up here. We're gonna come over here. You see there's the hatch to be able to teleport back up, and there's our cockpit right there. We're gonna interact with that. I'll go into camera mode here so you can see it a little bit easier. apologies for the flickering. The space stations have been flickering right as I went to record this tutorial. And we'll be sitting right there on top of the cockpit, right where we put it, and hit it. So, with that said, I'll go ahead and launch off here. Might clip through a little bit depending on the size of the base again and where it's where the cockpit is placed, but after that you should have your base in as a Corvette. A couple things that I found with this are that the complexity of the base, although seems menial in terms of its impact on gameplay, does certainly have an impact on the maneuverability of the ship. So the more parts that are on your ship, the more it will weigh, and therefore the less maneuverable it will be. I have proven this time and time again by adding and taking away parts from this build in particular, and being able to get completely different maneuverabilities out of it, maneuverability stats that are not only correlational but causational from the removing and adding of the parts. That when I add the parts, the maneuverability consistently goes down, and when I take away parts, the maneuverability consistently will go up. So just keep that in mind. Alrighty everyone, that wraps up the tutorial. Hope you all had a wonderful time getting to learn how to import your bases as Corvettes. Look out for some future tutorials where I'll be explaining how to build in Blender, as well as just some general live streams that I'll be doing coming up. So now that you have the power to import bases, please be responsible with that power. Please keep in mind the taxation of render that it can have on players' bases, or on other players' games. And keep in mind that when you have a larger base, such as the one you see here, that probably best not to pull it into the anomaly. However, in multiplayer, you're perfectly fine to use it. Okay, I've tested this in multiplayer as well as bigger bases than this even, and it does not seem to crash people's games. They are working on the stability of it. So, that all being said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. It's been Evolve Finch. Goodbye, everybody.